might have a lot of questions around, everything from, I think, from student visas to work visas to, how things have changed over the course of time. So, like which visa options are realistic, how long does the process take, what are the kind of, options available. So I think, we thought that it was a very opportune time to kind of bring in the experts. And LCR has been, a partner at Incred Wealth with us for some time, and they are truly, a firm which has been working in this space for a long time. And I will allow Shilpa Menon and Rahul Mishra to take you through the company profile and answer a lot of these doubts and concerns that all of us must be having in our minds. Shilpa is the managing director at LCR, and Rahul Mishra is the senior director as well. So over to you, Shilpa, for a quick overview on the firm. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Radhika. It's a pleasure to be here. And I think good evening to all of you who's made the time to attend. We hope this will be a useful conversation for everybody on something that's really happening recently, a lot of things that have happened related to immigration in the US. So to give you a little bit of a background, maybe I'll just let everybody know a little bit about LCR Capital and what we do. And then maybe we can dive into the more topical conversation, which is what is actually happening in the US. What is happening to H-1B? What is the US gold visa? Is EB-5 still relevant? All of these questions we can answer. So LCR is a US-based private investment and advisory services firm. We are headquartered in Connecticut, and we have offices in many other locations, including Brazil, UAE, UK, Lisbon, and in Bombay, of course. Rahul and I are both based in Bombay. We've got a 7-member team based in India. We have worked with around 1,200 plus clients across 36 countries in little over a decade of our inception. We were founded in 2012 by a gentleman named Suresh Rajan. Since then, we've primarily worked on the EB-5 program. Now, the EB-5 program is a US government regulated program that provides green cards to investors who invest a particular regulated amount. Right now, the amount is $800,000 into a US project that would create jobs in the US economy. So that is the fair deal that the US government proposes. You put some of your capital at risk, and for that you get your green card. We've got a great track record over the years. Like I said, we've worked with 1,200 plus clients and very happy clients who keep referring their friends and family to us. So that's been our claim to fame so far. I think we're one of the leading market leaders when it comes to EB-5, especially in India. I'm from the wealth management industry before this, and prior to this, I used to work with LCR. So I joined LCR around 5 years ago, but I know LCR for around 8 or 9 years because in my previous organization also I used to work with LCR. So that's a little bit about us, what we do. And because we work with the EB-5 program, which is about green cards, we are also very experienced when it comes to the other types of visas in the US. Although we are not immigration attorneys, we do see our families going through the motions for getting student visas first in the US, and then some people trying for the H-1B visas. We know the struggle that's there. We also see families applying for L1s and then getting to a EB1 queue and EB2 queue. We regularly work with immigration attorneys, so we also understand what the pulse is right now with respect to different visas, how it is impacting Indians who are applying a lot more than any other country nationality. So we end up having queues in extraordinarily long queues, which also becomes a problem to get green cards. So with that background, I think I'll probably stop here and hand it over to Rahul, who can then introduce himself and also talk a little bit about the EB-5 program and the different visas, etc., the benefits. And then we're happy to take questions on anything that you may have on your mind.
Great. Thanks, Shilpa. Very good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I think the timing couldn't be more opportune to engage with all of you, given all the recent announcements from the White House, right? So my background primarily has been on the private banking, wealth management, family office space. prior to joining LCR, I was part of the leadership team at ICICI Bank. In my initial role, I was responsible for engaging with family office clients, and then later on, I was responsible for handling the venture capital ecosystem for the bank. So Shilpa has shared a background about LCR. Maybe I will get into the details of the program to give all of you, just in terms of the history of the program, the key benefits, and moreover, somebody who's already in the US and files for this program, what are the key advantages on that front as well. Let me just quickly share my screen and I could run you through the text.
Right. So while Rahul shares the screen, so I think why we think it is very important right now to get into this discussion is, there are two things that have happened. I mean, one question that we keep getting asked is EB5 still relevant? So we do want to let you know that the EB5 program is very much relevant even today, and more so today. Because the program does need to keep getting renewed every few years, and it's going to get renewed in 2027. So the program, the form and shape that it's in today is valid till 2027. And also, in fact, there's a grandfathering clause in it, which means that if something happens to the program or changes happen to the program, anybody who's already invested will be taken care of and will get their green card, will get their capital back. That grandfathering actually expires in September 30 next year, that is 2026. So in fact, if there's anybody who's looking to get into the program right now, this is the great time to get in and lock in your immigration benefit and all of the regulations that are there right now. That's why this is a very good time to rethink this opportunity if you're thinking about it. On the H-1B front, you may have heard about the $100,000 fee that the US is planning to charge on any new H-1B applications. You should know that, for example, if you have a relative or a kid overseas and is studying now and is hoping to get an H-1B from an employer in the future, you should remember that will impact them. Any new employers will need to cough up this extra 100K, and they also need to prove that they are not able to hire any local Americans and that they absolutely have to hire this international person. So that's another thing that they are coming down very hard on, which used to be overlooked in the past. And H-1B is anyway a lottery system, so it's not like it's a sure shot. You first have to get the lottery, and then you have to get approved. So there is a lot of steps in all of that, leads to a lot of anxiety for a lot of children. So that is one thing why people often like to, sort of insure themselves with an EB5. I think that's another reason why. When it comes to the gold card, there is an announcement about the gold card, which is a 1 million gold card. And Rahul will talk a little bit more about it. But please know that the details of that gold card are not out yet. It'll probably take 3 more months at least. And it's not clear whether it's for the full family, it's for an individual. It's not clear if it's going to go and attach itself to the same visa pool of EB1 and EB2, which already is very backlogged. So we don't really see how that's going to impact the speed. The only thing we know is that that's going to be a donation. So you're not going to get that capital back. So writing 1 million will be writing off a check and basically saying that, here's buying your green card. So that's very different from the EB5, which is essentially investing where you do get your capital back. So with that, I think I'll just stop, and Rahul, maybe you can take over. Sorry.
Sure. Thanks, Shilpa. No, so very relevant given these are the recent announcements, right? So going back to H-1B, again, there is a recent announcement that currently it's a pure lottery system, where it's just a random sort of someone who will get selected. But even that lottery system is getting sort of ruled out, where ultimately it will become a points-based system. So very senior hire at an Apple will score much higher in points as compared to a startup who just gets in an entry-level sort of employee, right? So all these things are also coming in place that will dissuade the IT companies to hire more fresh graduates and focus more on very, very, more lateral hires that way. So that landscape seems to be changing. Even on the Trump Gold Card, there's still clarities awaited whether it's going to be just a single applicant or can dependents, family members be added to it? How will the tax aspect work around it, since US citizens are supposed to file taxes on global income? And so there are a lot of moving parts to the pieces to the puzzle. We'll eventually see how that unfolds. But EB-5 is has been passed under congressional law, been passed by the House of Representatives, by the Senate, signed by the President. So that's something that absolutely in law, and as Shilpa mentioned, all rules currently applicable are grandfathered till September of next year. Okay, so I think let me get into the deck. Let me focus on some slides that will be of significant relevance for this discussion. So these are the key, highlights of how the program is structured. So first of all, who all can apply for EB-5, right? So a family can absolutely apply, where husband, wife, and children under the age of 21 can all get covered under one application. As you're aware, currently the investment amount required is $800,000. So someone can, include the entire family into one single application as far as the kids are under the age of 21. There are certain age out risks that apply, that though the age of the child freezes when you apply, but again, it sort of gets unfrozen to pay the visa fees. And in case if there is a backlog, there is a risk of a child getting aged out as well during the process. So hence, we recommend that it's ideal to consider adding kids who are maybe 18 and a half, 19 at max, so that you don't face the risk of the kid aging out during the process, right? So though it says 21, ideal time is maybe to plan for this while they are 18 and a half or 19. Max, right? So else, if both kids are over the age of 21 and parents want both of them to have secure green cards, then in all probability you're looking at two separate applications of 800,000 each. Huge educational advantages of students who apply under this, because once you have a conditional green card, which is the first green card that's handed over to you in this process, you practically qualify as a local application as compared to a foreign application. And as you're aware, foreign applications have limited number of seats and so on and so forth. You also have the option of getting considered as an in-state student. So then in-state tuition applies to you, which in most public schools drops by almost 50% on an annual basis. So that's the significant difference in terms of the fees as well. There is significant career flexibility, where once you receive a work permit for somebody who's already in the US and files for EB-5, you can also apply for adjustment of status. And through this AOS, you get a work permit in a period of 4 to 6 months. That's what we are seeing of late. And once you receive the work permit, someone is no longer dependent on sponsorship through an employer, right? Then practically you can live or work anywhere in the US. And students actually, once they receive the work permit, they mention on their resume that sponsorship not required. So hence, most companies in placement season want to evaluate such a candidate, right? I just spoke about adjustment of status. So under this, you receive a work permit in 4 to 6 months. That completely eliminates your dependence on a OPT, CPT/H1B, right? So that's the biggest advantage of someone filing for EB-5 from within the US. So even if, we all know that tech jobs in the US, there is uncertainty that comes with it. If there is a situation where somebody gets laid off, you have 60 days to find a job, else you have to, head back to your home country. So once you have a work permit, you sort of, you don't fall under that uncertainty, right? You can switch jobs at will without requiring sponsorship. This is definitely a route to permanent residency. The conditional green card that comes to you from that day onwards, practically all rights and responsibilities of a regular green card apply to you as well. And that eventually turns into a permanent green card. And in case you have stayed in the US for at least 183 days consecutively for 5 years from the day you received your conditional green card, you are eligible for citizenship through naturalization as well. So this is not only a route to PR, permanent residency, but also a route to citizenship. So let me move on to how this is so as of now, this is the fastest way in the US to a green card, right? All other categories of EB, so EB1, EB2, for India-born applicants, they are all backlogged. Right, so EB5 still remains current as per the recent visa bulletin of October, the month of October. So till 31st October, anyone who files, the status is still current. There is no backlog, no progression. So it remains that way as of now. Eventually, once next year the queue starts to form, there could be a backlog. But as I said, as of now, it remains the fastest path to a green card. We spoke about work permit. So a one-time investment of 800,000 is something that you are required to put in a project that's approved by USCIS. The whole idea of this investment is it should create 10 American jobs. And not only creation, it should ultimately sustain also for at least a period of 2 years. So while you were invested in this project, those 10 jobs are at least sustained for a 2-year period, right? So that is the main criteria. And the money that's coming in, USCIS wants to ensure that it's clean money, it's ethically, legally sourced money in your home country. So there is something called as a source of funds process, which I'll talk about in a little more detail as we go through. So that is actually the most important activity that you as an investor are looking at doing while entering the EB5 program, right? Where practically your attorney, so you need to engage an immigration attorney in this process. So your attorney will go through the entire origin of those funds and properly document your source of funds, which could run into hundreds and thousands of pages, so that USCIS doesn't have. USCIS is United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. So this is a program that they handle, they process, they approve. So USCIS should be absolutely comfortable with your SOF or source of funds. I spoke about family inclusion, part 2 citizenship, investment amount. So investment duration really depends on what is the arrangement with the project, with the project company, right? So usually it's a debt investment. So we as general partners, we are not agents or brokers. We are the investment managers to the fund. So the fund ultimately has a loan agreement with the project company, and the tenure could vary between 3.5 to 5 years. But usually you will find that on average it is a 5-year agreement, since that so that all immigration benefits are met during this investment period, right? I will move on. So program has been around since 1990 now, so it's been extremely popular over the last 35 years. So time and again there is a lot of talk that EB5 might or might not exist going forward, but it's always got renewed, and in 2022 it got renewed for another 5 years under the Reforms and Integrity Act. So the program is valid till September of 27, but from the grandfathering clause that protects someone with all the as per all the current rules, that grandfathering clause ends in September next year, right? So after September next year, in case there are changes in rules, then someone is opening themselves to that risk as well. And post September 27, in all probability, we see the program getting renewed. I mean, it's extremely popular, primarily being it's cheap capital for the developers. They practically raise funds at 6.5-7% odd, which is much lower than the market rate, right? Until now, around 135,000 families have used this option, and it's brought in significant FDI in terms of $55 billion for the US government. Yeah. So what are the requirements that the Congress has put in for somebody who's wanting to seek this path, right? I spoke about the minimum investment. So of course, the background is very important, where they would want people with a clean profile. So even when you apply, there is a biodata that you create and attach along with your application, right? It's like a very, very detailed resume. And thirdly, I spoke about the source of funds. So that's something that usually takes 4 to 6 weeks in terms of putting together. So your attorney works very closely with you on this. And only once your attorney is confident that it's a watertight application as far as your source of funds is concerned, only then an attorney goes ahead and files your source of funds, right? So in the last 5 years, we haven't had a single rejection as far as source of funds is concerned. In 2018, we had a couple of them, but that again was a situation where a client was not very forthcoming about the SOF. But over the last 7 years now, we have not had a single rejection as far as source of funds is concerned. And lastly, very important, US Congress has put in a requirement that your investment has to be at risk, right? So there can't be any guarantees, a capital safety or a capital return guarantee given to the investor/LP. But what we do as the GP is we take these guarantees at the fund level. So every project that you invest with us, there will be a denial guarantee. What that means is, for any reason, if USCIS denies your petition saying they are not okay with the source of funds or the project approval is not in place, so in 180 days, you are liable to get your capital back. So that denial guarantee is there in each of our projects. The second guarantee that we take is a completion guarantee, where the owner of the project is giving a guarantee saying the project will see the light of day, right? So that's also something all our projects have. And the third is a capital repayment guarantee that some projects of ours have. Currently, we have a hotel project in Vegas, which is a dual branded project by Marriott and Westin. It's almost completed. Guests should start coming in actually in the hotel over the next month or two. The online booking platform is already live. So there is a corporate guarantee by the Hall Group, which has a $1 billion balance sheet. There's a fourth project with us, so we share a very strong comfort level with them. So somebody who's wanting to mitigate the risk further, there is an option to choose a capital repayment guarantee project as well. So again, as I said, all these guarantees are taken at the fund level, which are to the GP, but in a way that you get benefited through that those guarantees as well.
Thanks, Rahul. I think I just want to jump in a little bit because I see some questions about our track record and success. And while Rahul talked about no denials from the source of funds perspective, I also want to let you know that we've absolutely not had any denials of any kinds. So it's not that just related to source of funds, we've just not had denials. We've had only just those 2 denials way back, and those were not related to project, were related to their own source of funds where they were, not forthcoming, like Rahul said. And since then, I think we've become wiser. The attorneys that the people work with have become wiser. So we've been able to screen out applications which we think could possibly get denied. So therefore, we've had a very strong track record. No denials seen since then. So that's one thing I want to sort of let everybody know. There's also a question on our track record in India and how many actually do adjustment of status for their kids. We typically do anywhere between 100 and 120. This year, we probably end up doing 150 because of the demand that's happening. Maybe the fourth quarter is going to be very busy, but that's typically the number of applications we typically do. Of that, I think I would say 70, 75, maybe even 80% is adjustment of status. Because as you realize, a lot of people don't really want to leave their country when they've made their wealth. It's for their kids who want to get settled there. So they basically end up applying for their kids. There are a lot of families who think that they don't want to come under the US tax bracket. So you'll be surprised that people actually do shell out twice the amount for both their kids. So like 2 separate applications, that also happens. Some of our clients, after they get their capital back the first time, they rotate that capital into the next child for the next child's application. That happens a lot with us. So these are some of the ways you can actually do this. I think I just wanted to answer that. And I think somebody's asking to summarize the 3 guarantees. Essentially, all our projects will have a denial guarantee, which means that if you get denied because of your source of funds, etc., we will get your capital back immediately. First, we'll try to find a replacement investor. If we don't get that done in 90 days, in another 90 days, you get a capital back. So you don't need to stay invested for long. We've not had to use the denial guarantee ever. But except for those 2 people that had gotten denied long back. But since then, we have not had to do it. Second is a completion guarantee, which we take from these developers because we want to be sure that they always have the funds to finish the project so that the jobs are created. Because essentially this is about job creation. So if the jobs don't get created, you don't get your green card. So we have to make sure that the projects get completed. Now for that, we have to be very sure that they're not overly dependent on EB5. Like, a COVID could hit, something else could happen. So we always ensure that they have some alternative financing, or they have their own equity that they can put in to complete the project. That's the completion guarantee. The third is the repayment guarantee. Now, this may not be there for every project. We try to negotiate it. Not every project will agree to our terms. But there are some projects of ours which are ready to give you a corporate guarantee, which says, listen, hey, if this project doesn't do well and is not able to pay you back on time, you have recourse to my other assets and I will pay you using those assets. So that's a corporate repayment guarantee that we have in some of our projects. I think some of InCred clients have also invested in these kind of projects. Yeah.
So just a reminder, if you all have any questions, you can just put it in the Q&A box, and Shilpa and Rahul will address them.
Yeah, so I think the one follow-up question that has come up is, are these guarantees still at risk? I mean, are they compliant with at risk? Absolutely. And we've seen it. We've seen the whole cycle where they've gotten approved and the capital has come back. So we've seen the whole cycle. We know how to do it in a compliant way. It is never given to the investor directly. It's always given at the fund level. So essentially, the investor is still taking a risk by putting the money in the EB5 fund. So that's why the at-risk component is still taken care of.
I think the whole conversation has been so enlightening. Thanks for that. We'll wait for a couple of more questions coming in.
Sure.
But tell us in the meanwhile, a lot of people wonder whether they should first go and then, get their family later. Or how does that work today when you have a family to take along?
That's very interesting. So we typically see two types of profiles nowadays, right? One is there where they are very clear, the family is very clear that we don't want to do it for ourselves. We want to do it for our child who's studying abroad. Then the child is already in the US. So they just apply for that kid and then that process just continues there. That's very easy to understand. Another situation is where the family is here, maybe they are a CXO or they're a professional family who has aspirations to move to the US completely, bag and baggage, right? Two husband, wife, both may be working, maybe one working, both kids are in school and they would completely want to move. In that case, 2-3 options emerge. One is that you just apply for EB5 from here itself, from India itself. You wait for the green card to come in 2 or 3 years time, which typically if there's no COVID, you should get it in 2-3 years time, right? And then you move. So you plan accordingly. Or very interestingly, a lot of tech firms, for example, are giving L1s to their employees, right, to go to the US. There's an L1 visa. So while they go, the one person may go on that L1 abroad, or maybe they'll bring their family also on the dependent L2 visa, etc. And then while they are there, they'll adjust their status. So that's also another option that we are seeing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 2 more questions.
How many students using AOS have you seen through to permanent green card till date? So several, we'll have to calculate and let you know, but typically the number of, if you look at any given point, 1/3 of our clients would have finished the entire process. 1/3 are have just done half the process, and 1/3 have just applied. So that's typically the sort of maturity of all our clients in the situation. So we would have seen a lot of students who have gotten, so we are relatively younger in that sense, although we were incepted in 2012 by the time we got our licenses and we got our first fund started. Our first fund was active in 2016, 2017, and those people have got their capital back now. So that set of people would have got even their permanent green card now. Back then, there was no concept of adjustment of status, by the way. Those were old regulations. But ultimately, they ended up being in the US, so they would have a permanent green card. So that is one way to look at it. The new folks, 2022 onwards is when the adjustment of status rule came in. So that's still too new for anybody to have gotten the permanent green card yet. People have just got the conditional green card, like say last year or so, or a year before that. So there is some time before they actually get their permanent. And that's true for every industry because AOS only started in 2022. There was no AOS before that. So I think that's answered. Is it a better option for HNIs to put money in the Trump Golden Visa instead of EB5? Okay, so that's a very interesting question. See, that depends on 2 things. I think one is the wealth level of this HNI that you're talking about. If they're ultra HNIs, with a lot of capital, and then the second thing is the details of that Trump Golden Visa. Right now there is no details, so I would strongly discourage anybody to invest right now till we know exactly what's in the details. If there are really some tax sops that they're giving, then it may make sense, right? If there's some tax break that they're going to give people. But there is a issue there. If the US decides to give different tax treatment to these people, there's going to be a lawsuit on their hands, because every other US citizen is also going to demand the same tax breaks. So it's going to be very difficult for them with an executive order to just provide better tax treatment to folks who are coming in for the 1 million. That's not something that we think that will run into a challenge. So we really question where that's going to come from. Other thing is, we don't know whether that's going to cover your entire family, one person, and we don't know what level of source of funds it's going to take. So all of that, you need to wait and watch on how that's going to work out. And of course, we'll keep you posted whenever we know more. But essentially, if somebody has a lot of wealth and they feel that they would be okay to write out one check and never see that money back, it's a donation. So if they're okay with that donation, that money never coming back, you have to ask the client that question. If they're okay with that money never coming back, then okay, for sure, please go ahead. But if they would like the money to come back and they would like to see where it's being put to use, then EB5 is definitely a better option. So for someone with a student currently in grade 12, what are the options as the child needs to move next year on an F1 visa? Okay, so if you've not applied for an F1 yet, I think you should apply for the F1 first and then apply for the EB5. The reason being that once you apply for EB5, and if you're the main applicant, so if you're a dependent, it's okay. So one option could be that you apply as a family with your child, this child who's in grade 12 as a dependent. So that continues in parallel, and whenever next year you apply for student visa, that's okay, because a dependent can still apply for a student visa. Now, if there's the main applicant who's applying for a student visa, they can ask questions saying, oh, by the way, you've already applied for an immigrant visa. Why are you applying now for a non-immigrant visa? So there's a clash that happens. So to avoid that, we would say make the person a dependent. So maybe a parent and the child, if both parents don't want to be part of the application, one parent and child can be part of the application. And then you can do the F1. That is a good way to plan this out. We can have that conversation with So we provide very custom advice to families on who should apply, when should you apply, what should you think, what are the other things that you need to keep in mind before you apply. Rahul, you want to take the others?
Sure. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So I believe the only question pending is this one, right? What are the charges and fees?
No, there are two more. I think for SOF, what are the documents typically needed by salaried professionals?
Sure. Yeah. So very, very, very straightforward for salaried professionals. Last 7 years ITRs, last 10 years bank statements, and practically just showing the source, right? If today say that, okay, I'll give you an example. The fastest source of funds that one of our attorneys would have done for a client is someone liquidating their ESOPs, right? So that's practically, I think, within 10 to 12 days odd, your SOF could get completed as well. Where it gets a little elongated is if you say that, okay, part of the money is coming from liquidating ESOPs, some is coming from redeeming mutual funds, some of them are from breaking a fixed deposit, so on and so forth. So that's where then each of these funds, we have to get to the source, right? So then that would require more documentation to get back that, okay, 5 years back you invested in the mutual fund, what was the source? If these are proceeds from a sale of a property, 15 years back, what you invested in, what was the source of that, and get into that. But somewhere if we lead to a trail that's maybe 20 years back in time, right? And the bank comes forth and says that, listen, I can't give you a bank statement 20 years back in time. Here's a letter saying that these bank statements are something I'm not able to provide to you. That's acceptable. So as a backup, we could always take an affidavit, take a letter from a concerned authority saying they're not able to go back that much in time and provide the statement. But on best effort basis, we would want to see whatever can be procured and make it part of the application. Yeah, so that's on. And the attorneys that we deal with, these are very, very seasoned firms. They've done more than 1,000 odd applications, each of them in EB5. largely dealing with Indian clients. So they're very well aware of the source of funds for Indian client, the LRS restrictions, so on and so forth. And most of the firms that we deal with, they have in-house source of funds experts as well, right? So they have a dedicated professional on the source of fund side. So it's not that this is going to take too much of your bandwidth to sort of analyze. That will be done with the attorney, and that's what they are charging you for. But yes, providing them all paperwork that they need, so that accounting, it's a little tedious, but if you keep supporting them with, documents, I think within a month or 6 weeks, we should be good. Yeah, so let me move to the next one. What are charges and fees? USCIS fees is sacrosanct, as it would be anyone's guess. So that's $25,000 for the entire process. That's carved in stone, at least as on date. The attorney charges anywhere between $20,000 to $25,000. So you're talking about $50,000 of sunk cost between the attorney and USCIS. We as general partners charge admin fee. So for our rural project currently, which is a fully integrated battery recycling plant, the plant will be processing, will be refining cobalt, lithium, nickel and copper next year. So even the Department of Defense is looking at signing a stockpiling agreement with them. So most attorneys in the US are actually recommending this project to their clients. So there the rack rate for the admin is $60,000. And our non-rural project, which is high unemployment area project in Vegas. So practically HUE gets categorized by any location in the US that has at least 150% of unemployment rate as compared to the national average, right? So US has a national average of 4.5% on unemployment. And you'll be surprised to know that Vegas actually runs close to 13.5-14% of unemployment. So that categorizes as HUA. So in that project, the rack rate is $75,000. So having said that, the admin is something that once you move further along the process, since you would be coming through, a long-time partner in Cred Wealth, we are happy to see in terms of to accommodate you on that side, right? But give or take, you're looking at $800,000 of investment and $100,000 of costs associated with it. So ideally, you should plan for $900,000 for this program. Can you help NRIs? Yeah, of course, whether they are in the US or outside, it's a very straightforward process. If you are filing from in the US, that's where you apply for adjustment of status and go forward with your conditional green card. If you are applying from, say, either Canada, South Africa, or any other country, then in that case, you go through the consular interview process, right? Where you apply, you invest in the project, you are not eligible for adjustment of status, not eligible for work permit, travel permit. You go through the project investment. Once your approval comes in for your conditional green card, you get allotted a consular interview date. You appear for that interview, and post that you can enter the US, and the address that you provide to your attorney, your conditional green card gets delivered there. Yeah. Okay. If a student finishes OPT before this green card comes through, can he still get a green card while he waits in India? So see, if a student finishes OPT, so the student is already in the US, right? So as soon as you file for the investment, you'll also file for the work permit, which will come through in a period of 4 to 6 months. So then practically, as I said in initial part of this discussion, your OPT becomes irrelevant because your AOS, your work permit practically, supersedes your H1B, OPT, CPT, so on and so forth. So there is actually no requirement to come back to India. And one very important aspect, the day that you file for AOS, there is something called as Section 245K. Right. So under this Section 245K, someone who's filed AOS and still awaiting the approval for the work permit, there are certain protection rights that are accorded to such an applicant as well. So some of our clients filed who are in Harvard, and at the peak of conflict between the Trump administration and Harvard, right, they went ahead and filed for EB-5, filed the AOS petition, And because of that section 245K, just by filing, they couldn't be immediately deported if some judgment came through, right? So that 245K was protecting them. But in 4 to 6 months, they'll get their work permit, and then there is no need to be dependent on OPT. How much does the total investment work out to? I answered that. Over what period? So depends. Our rural project has a 3.5-year residual maturity of the loan. So you will get your money faster there. On the Vegas project, which is HUA, that has a 5-year investment period, right? So who regulates this fund? Fund is something we are the general partners. So we are handling the fund. The fund ultimately invests in the JCE, which is the job creating entity. Is that regulated by a particular?
It's a SEC registered fund, and it is exempt. So it is basically an accredited investor. So it comes under Reg S and Reg D. So if you look up the US SEC Reg D regulations is what it falls under. So it's very much a securities transaction, but it's for high net worth individuals, not retail investment. So that's where it comes.
And also clients who are investing, suppose you're investing for your son or daughter who are already in the US, right? So then there are accreditation norms that come in, that while you're making the investment, you need to certify that this individual has a $1 million net worth. But the 900,000 that you will be transferring, that can be included on this $1 million. Then it's just about the balance 100,000 that you need to arrange and show in the individual's name, right? So those are rules by the Securities Act, where any private market investment, you need to have $1 million net worth. The 90-day waiting period rule applies for students who enter the US. Yeah, so you have to be in the US for at least, you can file the EB-5 petition the next day that you land in the US. Very next day, you can file your conditional green card application, which is the I-526. But the I-485, which is your adjustment of status, that would require you to be in the US for at least a 90-day period. So that's the cooling period that you go through. So in fact, some of our clients who are supposed to come home in December, they have taken a call that they'll stay back, file the EB-5 petition and the AOS, and practically parents go and visit them in the US so that, this AOS doesn't get jeopardized, because once they go back home in January, go back to the US in January, they'll again have to wait for a 90-day period to file. And come April, if backlog or retrogression sets in, they'll not be able to apply for this AOS. Right? So that is a very, very critical aspect to consider.
So just one small thing. This is only for students, because that's a immigrant or OPT people, only they have cooling periods. If you're on an L1 visa or you're on an H1B, you don't have a cooling period because they are dual intent immigrant visa. So in those cases, you can immediately do AOS. And there are lesser travel restrictions in those, because those guys can actually travel on their L1s or their H1Bs.
All right. Do we need to pay the whole amount upfront in one go? Yes, ideally, in terms of to ensure that it's a smooth application process. And rural projects are getting approved very fast. Our recent approvals in our rural project have come in a period of just 4.5 months. So in case your application comes up for adjudication in 4 months and the USCIS official sees that only part amount has come in and the balance is still pending, they'll keep the file aside. We don't know when they're going to get back to it. So in such scenarios, it's better that your entire amount is moved there. If your kid is there in the US and you say that between me and my spouse, we can just transfer 500,000 under LRS, there's always an option to gift money to other family members, and then technically 3-4 individuals could use the LRS amounts.
Yeah, so with respect to the LRS, I think we don't want to make a sweeping statement here. I see a question there on the RBI restriction. There are ways and means to do this in a compliant way, so that we can discuss, case by case with clients. Typically, you can use LRS and gift it overseas. If there's an NRIs could use their own limit of 1 million. So there are various ways of doing this. And for those who do not have the limits, we also offer flexible funding, in the sense that if you absolutely cannot send all of the 800K in one fiscal year, we do give you a break of like dividing it between 2 fiscal years. So that is also something that's possible to do. So between March and April, or whenever you invest, the next amount can come, next tranche can come in the next fiscal year. So that is something that we provide flexibility. So I think that's something that we can do. Yeah.
Shilpa, you want to take up this
Yeah,
one? In
I'll
terms
take up.
of
So,
yeah.
two questions. I think one is, what if I want to set up a business in the US under the EB5 program? If you want to do it under the EB5 program, you'll have to set up your own, you'll have to do direct investment into EB5. And for that, when you do a direct investment, there's a lot more. I mean, then you're not investing in a fund like us. You don't need anyone like us. You will be running your own fund. I mean, you essentially be running that investment yourself. You will also be, responsible for all the EB5 regulations, all the labor laws, everything that you need to take care of. Suffice it to say, of 100 people, only maybe 4 or 5 people do this, and they do this because they've been doing this for many years. EB5, direct EB5. The processing speed of direct EB5 is very slow because the government is not at all interested in looking at direct EB5. They're not processing them very fast. We have experience because we have a few direct investment clients also. In the middle, when there was a lapse, we had done a few direct investments, so we know how it works. But essentially, you could do it. 800,000 is still the amount if you invest in a area which has high unemployment. But if you do it in an urban area, it will be 1.05 million. You're on your own. You have to work it with your investor, your immigration attorney, and do everything yourself.
Just add one point over there, Shilpa, to Monisha's point, right?
Yeah.
So see, when you go direct and not through an investment manager, then practically all 10 jobs have to be direct jobs that you create in the project, right? As compared to going through a regional center / investment manager like us, the 10 jobs that get created, they could be either direct, indirect, or induced. Right. So on the hotel project, say a direct job like a bellboy in the hotel, right? An indirect job could be like a shuttle service from the airport to the hotel. And induced jobs could be that because of a hotel in that area, any development or any other commercial establishment sort of coming or coming up in that area. So that also gets calculated. So this is a statistical model called RIMS2. It's acceptable by USCIS, the calculation that's done basis RIMS2. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. Up to nine jobs out of 10 could be indirect as well. So that's also acceptable. So you have much more flexibility.
Right. And this is $1 million question, which I think nobody has an answer to, but do you expect a backlog to be created next year? So if you asked me this last year, I would have said, yes, I expected this year, but it hasn't come so far. Okay. This whole year, in fact, we were expecting a backlog in June. It did not come. We are in October. We are almost in October. October is also not backlogged. And October is the new fiscal year for USCIS to reset. So we still don't have backlog. It's anybody's guess, but looking at the demand, and given that Rahul and I are constantly busy for several hours every day and over the weekend as well, we think there's a lot of demand. We're about to close both our funds very soon. So I think there is a sharp uptick. There could be a backlog next year. So that is what we think. If you apply in April, can you expect for AOS before September? We don't know. In EB5, the thumb rule is if you've made up your mind, just do it instead of waiting, because we just don't know how long that backlog is going to last, right? So that's one thing.
I think I'll just come in here because I think the questions themselves are kind of, speaking on the kind of, interest and value that the team at LCR can bring to this conversation. I think a lot of the questions are coming from certain clients who clearly have some immediate goals and plans. So I would really suggest that we take this up on a one-to-one basis with the team. Get in touch with your, Incred Wealth relationship manager, because honestly, even at Incred Wealth, we believe that, this is not just about, immigration, right? It is, in a sense, an alternate investment that you're making. And, to the questions that were asked in terms of upfront investment, etc. So your relationship manager can also work towards building that kind of a corpus for you and deciding how you could, partner with LCR and work together. So this is, I believe, not an overnight process, right? I believe
Absolutely not.
like a few years, right? You'll have to work together with the team here.
Absolutely.
So it is a long-term project. Maybe if you want to take one last question from the 3 on your screen.
I don't mind. In fact, the first one that I see on the parent plus 2 minor children, so very important, right? So of course, in terms of the parents coming in and adding 2 minor children, we suggest you go through the entire process. 4 to 5 years down the line, once all 4 individuals have their permanent green cards, then it's for each individual to decide whether they want to keep the green card or surrender it, right? But during the process, parents will have to continue with the entire process, right? And not look at surrendering it. After 5 years, once all 4 of people have the permanent green cards, you could look at doing that. Once your conditional green card is delivered to you, suppose you opt for a rural project, in 6 months you get your approval, you go through the consular interview process, assuming there's no backlog. So more or less within 14 to 16 months, you're looking at getting your conditional green card delivered, right? The day you have your conditional green card in your hands, then you have to be in the US for 2 weeks every 6 months. And that applies to all applicants, whether they are, the primary applicant or dependents. So 2 weeks every 6 months, and this is something that can continue either for conditional green card or permanent green card. So the myth that once you have a green card, you have to be in the US all the time, the answer is no. You need to create a paper trail. You need to have a credit card, a driver's license, take an apartment on rent, show some ties to the local, sort of local community. So all that is something that we'll guide you, or your attorney will guide you, so that at no point of time USCIS says that there's no intent to migrate. So that should answer it. What return can one can expect? So depends. Our rural project this is not a financial investment. The reward is the green card. So our rural project has a 1% per annum return, and our HUA, the Vegas project I spoke about, that has a 0.25% return per annum. So please don't judge this as a financial investment. What needs to be done by September 30 in order to be grandfathered? You need to file your EB-5 petition. So anyone who files even by 29 September will be covered under grandfathering clause, right? The only thing being that from next year onwards, the entire rush that will come towards this, there could be a dearth of good projects. I mean, someone who keeps it to the last minute till August, September, investment managers could run out of good projects to offer to clients. And also, in case a backlog comes in at that point in time, an applicant will be able to file the EB-5 petition, but might not be able to file for AOS, which is the biggest advantage under the program. Yeah.
All right. I think that's been extremely, educative and insightful, and the questions speak for themselves. Thank you so much, Shilpa and Rahul. And
your pleasure. I'll just take the last one.
There's one more now.
Over here, Abhimanyu. So you would have to look at 2 separate applications because both kids are over the age of 21. So if you would want both of them to continue in the US and live the American dream, so it's 2 separate applications. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Over to you, Radhika.
No, I'm saying thank you. I think that was really generous, a lot of information shared by both of you and very patiently.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you to everyone who is on this call, and your bankers will be in touch with you. Look forward to doing more of these, Shilpa and Rahul. Clearly.
Thank you. It's been a complete pleasure, and it's been a complete pleasure working with you for all these years. We are available for your Pan India team, not just in Bombay. So if you need us, in fact, we're in Bangalore this weekend, all through Tuesday, Wednesday. If there's anybody in Bangalore, we can meet them in person. Bombay is always an option. We have a team in Delhi as well, and frequently travel to other cities. So let us know where you need us.
Yeah. Thank you, Radhika. Thank you, Saurabh, for putting this together. Mr. Nitin Rao also for facilitating this. So thank you, everyone, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend ahead. Thank you.
You too.
Bye.